Unmute camera, video. Okay. Fine. Avi. Okay. Chapter 5. Hare Krishna, International Society for Krishna Consciousness welcomes you to the day 5 of 18-day session of Bhagavad Gita. The day 5, we will be discussing about Karma Yoga, action, and Krishna consciousness. For better understanding and easy assimilation of the subject matter, we will be presenting this session in 4 phases. In phase 1, we will see Arjuna asking a question once again, is giving up all the actions, that is sannyas, is better or karma yoga? Again, in phase 2, Krishna will say karma yoga is equal to sannyas, and also karma yoga is easier than sannyas. In phase 3, we will see how to perform Nishkam Karma Yoga, which frees one from bondage. And in phase 4, we will see how, from slok 17 to 29, liberation by focusing on the Supreme, conclusion and question answers. So in this way, we will be covering up today's session. So let us begin by the question asked by Arjuna. Arjuna is asking, which is better, the initiation of work or working with detachment, sannyas or karma yoga? Arjuna vacha, Arjun means one who is very simple. Yeah. Arjuna vacha, sannyasam karmanam Krishna, punaryogam cha samsasi, yachreya yatyorekam tam, tanme bruvi sunischitam. Arjuna, should a person who has acquired knowledge work or not work? First, you ask me to renounce the work, and then you recommend karma yoga, which is means working. Please tell me which is the best path for me to follow. Actually, Arjuna is fit for sannyas, but Krishna is saying you perform action like Janak Maharaj for setting up a good example. But Arjuna, still in the heart of the heart, wants to give up all the activities. But Krishna is saying that the need of the time is inspiration. You can inspire people to step up, bring them to a higher levels, next level, by being an inspiration for them. If you work and set a good example, people will follow you and take inspiration from you. The need of the time is an inspiration for someone who can preach Bhagavad Gita. Renunciation and working in the spirit of renunciation. But for Arjuna, working is better because premature renunciation is distressful. Because Arjuna may take sannyas and go ahead, but people will follow and take sannyas and they will literally mess up their life. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Sannyasa Karma Yogascha Nishreyas Kara Ubhava Tayastu karma sannyasa asakta karma yoga vishishyate. Arjuna, both are beneficial, but karma yoga is better and easier. Because if one knowledge works, but a sannyasi who renounces the work, for people who follow you, thinking that they will also, Arjuna has become a sannyas, I will also be take up sannyas. And such a person renounces the work, later finds that he is really not detached. And to remove impurity in the heart, again he has to work. Mind you, Arjuna, after sannyas, one again comes back to the worldly affairs. Such work is forbidden for sannyas. He becomes a joke for in the eyes of the people. Therefore, it would be better. Therefore, it would be better to work without attachment and help people to work without attachment. Therefore, the path of sannyas would be difficult. But when one has knowledge, he will automatically renounce and become situated in detachment. Gradually, he will come up to the stage of renouncement. Therefore, because there is no risk in the path of Karma Yoga is easier, better, and superior. So Arjuna set a good example, help people to come one step, one level higher from attachment to work without attachment. श्रेयः स नित्य संन्यासी यो नो दृष्टेन कांक्षति निर्द्वन्द्व हि महाबाहो सुखं बन्धात् प्रमुच्यते. Krishna, but one should not strive for sannyas. Should one not try to become a sannyasi? Should one not take renunciation and the ultimate liberation? Arjuna, one who neither hates nor desires, one whose heart is pure, should take sannyas. One who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his work is always renounced. Such a pure-hearted worker is always a sannyasi, Arjuna. By working, he will attain realization of the self. You are Mahabahu, one with mighty arms. Therefore, you will be able to conquer the city of liberation. O Arjuna. Sankhayoga pritag balaha prabadhanti na pandita ekam apyastita samya ubayor vidanti phalam. An intelligent person sees no difference between path of Karma Yoga and Sannyas, Gyan Yoga. The results are one and the same. Only children consider them as different. Karma Yoga will also lead to renunciation. So, intelligent people see that the result of Karma Yoga and Sannyas, Gyan Yoga, same. Only a child sees a difference. Yat shankyaye prapyate sthanam tadyogerapi gamyate ekam sankyam cha yogam cha yapashyati sapashyati. One who knows that the position reached by Gyan Yoga can also be attained by Karma Yoga says correctly. Sanyastu Mahabhavo Dukkam Aptum Yogata Yoga Yukta Munir Brahma Na Chire Nadi Gacchati. However, merely renouncing the activities yet not engaging in karma yoga brings distress, because to become a sannyasi, one heart must be completely purified. Karma yoga is equal to sannyas. It is easier than the path of Jnana Yoga sannyas, and therefore Karma Yoga is better for a beginner, for a common man to follow Arjuna. Renunciation and working in the spirit of renunciation are the same. But Arjuna, for common people, working in the spirit of renunciation is better than renunciation of work, because premature renunciation can be distressful. Thus, we enter phase 2, working with mood of detachment. Characteristic of working with a mood of detachment leads gradually to renunciation and frees one from bondage. Krishna very systematically explained the characteristics of Yoga Yukta, never entangled, a person working without attachment. Is very nicely explained from slok 7 to 12. Yoga Yukta Vishuddh Atma Vijitatma Jitendriya Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma Kurvana Pina Lipyate. Why will taking sannyas be distressful for a common man, Krishna? Arjuna, because sannyasi has senses like us. And since a sannyasi does not work, a common person, if he takes sannyas, a little impurity becomes a problem. But for a common man, if he is engaged in karma yoga and he becomes a karma yogi, working is pleasurable. He can work and purify his heart. The process of purifying the heart is for a karma yogi is working with the senses. Whereas a sannyas, it will be difficult. The common person, if he takes sannyas and his heart is impure, he again comes back to the material working, will be very, very abominable. People will speak ill about him. Sannyas, it is difficult because one has already given up the work of the senses. Impurities in the heart will make the sannyasi a miserable person. For a sannyas, that will be problematic. But a karma yogi achieves supreme realization by working without such difficulty. Hey Krishna, please tell me more about a karma yogi. Arjuna, one who works with devotion, who is a pure soul, or who has got an intention to become a pure soul, and who controls his mind and senses, is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a person never gets entangled because his intention is good. And Naiva Kimchit Karom Iti Yukta manyayata tatvavid Pashyam Sprishan Jignarna Shrinvan Gachan Swapan Vasan. A person in divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, and eating, always knows within that actually soul, the Atma, the Jivatma is doing nothing at all, because speaking is done by the body, opening or closing of eyes is done by the body. He is not the body, he is soul. He always knows that only material senses are engaged with object of senses, and he as a soul is aloof from them. Pralapan Vishrijan Jigran Anumishani Mission Api Indriyani Indriyan Arteshu Vartante iti darayan. He understands it is not the soul acting. I am not acting. My body, the senses, is acting with the object of senses. Brahmanayadaya karmani sangam yukta karoti yah lipyate na sa papena padma patram evambasa. And even if a person has some false ego, as long as he performs his duty without attachment, he is still unaffected by sinful reactions. As a lotus leaf is in the water, still it is not affected by water. Whereas a paper, if it is in the water, it gets immersed in the water. Whereas an iron plate, if it is in water, it will totally immerse in the water. But a lotus leaf is in the water, is not affected by the water, and still it maintains its identity. Therefore, a person, even if a person has some false ego, but he performs his duty without attachment, sinful reactions will not affect him, is unaffected by sinful reactions. Kayena manasa buddhaya kale kev lerindriyanapi yogina karma kurvanti sangha yuktvatma shuddhaye. The karma yogi, although detached, act with body, mind, and intelligence, but he knows that I am soul. It is only body which is doing the action. It is the senses interacting with object of senses, even with the senses, but he is working now for the purpose of purification of mind, purification of intelligence, and purifications of false ego. Yukta karma phalam yuktava shantim apnoti naishtikam ayukta kama karena phale sakto nibadhyati. In this way, a karma yogi give up the fruits of their action and achieve peace in self-realization, he attains Shanti. He attains peace. Thus, one should understand who is the real doer. This is explained in sloka 13, 14, 15 and sannyasteshu kambasi navdare pure dehi naiva kurvan karayan. Such a yogi resides in a city with 9 doors, 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nose, nostrils, 1 mouth. It makes 7. Down we have 2 doors to flush out water and waste from the stomach. He does not think that he is residing in the city, but he does not think he is the city. Like a driver sits in the car, but he knows he is sitting in the car, he is not the car. Like a person is in a room, but he knows he is in the room, but he is not the room. A living being who has developed knowledge knows that he is not the doer. He performs action, but he does not think himself to be the doer. He does not create activities, nor does he order others to act, nor does he create fruits of action. Arjuna, na कर्तृत्वं न कर्माणि लोकस्य सृजति प्रभो न कर्मफल संयोगं स्वभावस्तु प्रवर्तते. Oh Krishna, then who is acting if he is not acting? The modes of material nature, Arjuna, it's the modes of material nature which is acting. If the person is in mode of goodness, like Vibhishan, he reads and scriptures and is very peaceful. If he's in mode of passion, Rajaguna, like Ravan, is behind money and women. And if he's in mode of ignorance, like Kumbhakarna, either he's sleeping or he is shouting like a madman. Krishna, but the material nature is controlled by the Lord. So the Lord is responsible for our action ultimately, Krishna. What do you have to say about that, Krishna? No, the Supreme Lord does not assume anyone's sinful action or pious activities. But the embodied soul, the living entity, has got a limited independence to serve me or not to serve me. He becomes bewildered by ignorance and he wants to serve Maya and not me because his knowledge is covered by ignorance. नाद नाद ते कर्षज चित्त पापम न चैव सुकृतं विभो अज्ञानेनावृतं ज्ञानं तेन मयन्ति जन्तव. It is ignorance which is covering that living entity, and because the living entity is covered by ignorance, he misuses his minute independence, that is to serve Krishna or not to serve Krishna, and he prefers not to serve Krishna, and because of that he becomes a puppet in the hand of three modes of material nature. Like a citizen, he does not want to follow the rules of the government. He becomes a puppet in the hand of the police. Jnanam tu tad jnanam esham na sittam atmana tesham aditya vajjnanam prakashyati tatparam. How, Arjuna? When one is enlightened, then that knowledge reveals everything as sunlight lights up everything. Like a room is dark, but as soon as one switches the light, all the darkness goes up. Or as soon as one lights a candle, the darkness goes up. As soon as one takes up knowledge, all the ignorance goes up. It is not that dark room. As soon as the light is on, the darkness says, no, no, we are here for past 10 days or 10 years. So you have no right to be here. Darkness has to be here. No, as soon as light is there, darkness has to go. Krishna Surya Saman, Maya Andhakar, Yaha Krishna hai, Waha Maya Nadikar. So in this way, Jnanam tu tad jnanam. So in this way, the ignorance goes if we take shelter of a spiritual master, follow his instruction, that divine knowledge which was explained in chapter 4, that divine knowledge which was told in the chapter 3, which will cut the eternal enemy, which is lust, and that divine knowledge which is explained in chapter 2, Karpanya doshupahata subhava prichamitam dharma samolachita. That divine knowledge which we are begging in chapter 2, which Krishna explains in chapter 3 as the divine knowledge will cut the eternal enemy, which is called as lust. And that divine knowledge can be acquired by simply rendering humble service at the lotus feet of spiritual master and following his instructions to the heart. That divine knowledge will enlighten and remove the ignorance. Like as soon as we touch the bulb or enlighten a candle, the dark room becomes bright. Liberation by focusing on Supreme will become simple. Hence, Krishna speaks in about liberation by focusing on the Supreme from slokas 17, 18, 19, 20 till 29. Symptoms of a self-realized person who is focusing on the Supreme. When he takes such a person, when a common man, when he sees that Arjuna is taking shelter from a spiritual master and performing humble manual service and following the instructions, common person will also follow surrender to a spiritual master, perform humble manual service and follow the instruction to the art, and gradually they become self-realized and they start focusing on the Supreme. They become equipoised and attains the Brahma platform, Arjuna. So be the brand ambassador. Yad yad acharti shreshtas. Help common people who are working with attachment to arise one's level higher. Bring them to the next level, working without attachment or working with detachment. Tad buddhayas tadatmana tannishta tatparayana gacchanya punaravrtim jnana nirduta kalmasha When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, this one attains by simply surrendering to a spiritual master and rendering humble manual service and following the instructions to the heart. Gradually, this divine knowledge comes, and one's mind, intelligence, faith are fixed in the Supreme. Then one becomes fully cleansed of misgiving through complete knowledge and proceeds straight on the path of liberation. Ratnagar Daku, he was a dacoit and he was killing people and taking their wealth. When he met his spiritual master Narad Muni, gradually he took up the process and he transformed himself to a great saint, Valmiki. The hippies were totally into sense gratification when they met Srila Prabhupada, did humble manual service to Srila Prabhupada, followed its instruction to the heart. Their intelligence were fixed up in serving the spiritual master. Gradually, their heart was cleansed from all misgivings and they were proceeding towards the path of liberation. Thus, the hippies became happies, the rishis became rishis, the Chinis became munis, the Japanese started chanting japa, and the unfortunates became fortunates. So, this is a very simple path, Arjuna. Just guide people with your wonderful example. Be a source of inspiration. Yad yad acharti shreshtas. Vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane gavihastini sunischeva swapakecha pandita samadarshina. That divine knowledge is vidya, becomes the property of a person who is humble. So Arjuna inspire common people to work without detachment, to work not to please themselves but to please the spiritual master, like the hippies did, like Valmiki did, like Mirgari did. Help them. It's a simple technique. Just surrender to the spiritual master, do humble service. By becoming humble, that divine knowledge becomes our property. When that divine knowledge comes, Arjuna, one can see that this is a body of a Brahmana, this is a body of a cow, and this is a body of a elephant. But within this body is a soul. A soul is neither a Brahman nor a cow nor a elephant, nor the is a this a body of a dog, and within the body of the dog is a soul, and the soul is not a dog. Soul is a part and parcel of Krishna, and he will see a dog eater also. And after seeing a dog eater, he will not say he's a Chandal, but he's a soul in the body of, because of his karma, he has got this body, but he is a soul, part and parcel of Krishna. He says a Pandita, enlightened person, but he sees the soul, it does not see the body, and accordingly he behaves. Such a person becomes a Pandita, and his mind is purified and he is established in equanimity. So Arjuna, rather than jumping to be a sannyasi, you will mislead people, because it is like this. You can become a sannyasi. It's like this. A small baby is in KG class, and you are his inspiration. And if you go to the first standard, that baby will also go to the first standard. But if you jump to the PhD, post graduation, PhD, doctorate, that small child will also follow you and jump to PhD, post-graduation, and then what will happen? Then what will happen? That boy, that small baby will not be able to understand what is PhD, and he will neither complete his KG class nor he will be doing something in PhD. So similarly, you help them to get to the next level. They are working with attachment. Now surrender and act to please the spiritual master with to please spiritual master. That is acting with detachment. At that point, such a sage becomes humble and vidya becomes his property. And he can see the soul in all the body, ant, coronavirus, amoeba, everywhere. इहेव तेर्जित सर्गो येषां सम्ये स्थितं मनः निर्दोषं हि समा ब्रह्म तस्मात् ब्रह्माणि ते स्थिता. Thus, the common man, by surrendering to the spiritual master in a humble way, attains that divine knowledge and sees soul in the body, and thus they are already conquered the condition of birth, death, old age, and disease. They are flawless and impartial because they are situated at the level of Brahman. Arjuna, Krishna, how should such a person act? Krishna, such a person, even who was a common man, now after taking shelter of a spiritual master, he has advanced. He is now seeing everything as soul. He is now acting in a spiritual realm. Na prahirshyeta priyam prapyam no dvijet prapya cha apriyam sthir buddhir samadho brahman Vitta Brahmani Sthita. He should, such a person, neither rejoice when achieving something pleasant, nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant. He is self-intelligent, is unbewildered. He knows the signs of God. Such a person is not attracted to pleasure, sense pleasure, but he is always in the trance. Whatever happens, happens for the good. Like the example of the farmer. Oh, whatever happens, happens for the good. Your horse has gone away. Yeah, so what? Why should I be invisible? Whatever happened, happened for the good. Again, the horse came after a few days with many horses. People say, wow, what? You are so lucky. He says, yeah, whatever happens, happens for good. Hey, this person is not getting excited. Then again, the son is trying to train the horses, and he falls down, gets his leg fractured. People say, how sorry, how bad. Your son has fallen, his leg is gone. He says, whatever happened, happens for good. And his son, then again, the war is declared, and the king says, I require more soldiers. Young people who are fit should join army. And when all the uh, young men went to the army, they were killed. Again, the villagers say, how good your son is with you, because he was not fit for the army, he is with you. Whatever happens, happens for the good. Then he becomes the minister of the king, and the king gets his hand cut. He says, whatever happens, happens for the good. King gets angry, puts him into the jail. Then next day, the king goes for hunting. Then he finds that he's trapped by the hunters, the pygmies. and they are about to chop him. But this priest says, wait, he is unfit because his finger is cut. The king goes back to the palace. Whatever happens, happens for good, but you are behind the bar. What is good about that? He said that since I'm your faithful minister, I would have been behind you. They might have left you. Then I would have been the next. I would have been cut. So because I'm in the bar, I was not following. So I'm alive. So whatever happens, both of them said together happens for the good. So he's not rejoiced by something which is pleasant or laments. The Pandavas were put into the palace. They were happy. They were thrown out to the forest. They were happy. Prabhupada was in the best of accommodation in Los Angeles. He was happy. He was in a humble hut in Mayapur. He was happy. Such a liberated person is not attracted to the sense pleasure. He's always in trance because he knows Krishna. Whatever he does for his good. Bayasparshasva saktatma vindat yatmani yatsukam sabrahma yoga yuktatma sukam shaya masnute. So he enjoys a spiritual pleasure because his concentration is on pleasing the instruction of the spiritual master Tadvidi Pranipadena, and he concentrates on the supreme. Yasha Prasadat Bhagavad Prasadat. Since he understands that as soon as we not follow the instruction of the spiritual master, we try to fulfill the orders of illusion or unpurified mind. That kind of sense enjoyment is distressful. So he tolerates the